Hey, what's up, guys? We're back with another Beginner Builds. I'm, of course, your host, Frank DeLuca, with my co-host. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jeff Sosa.
And we are back, of course, this time with Blue Resourceful Mastery. This is a mastery that's all about dealing stage damage and turning dead cards into live ones. So, of course, you have a constant effect. All your attacks deal +1 stage of damage. Your style attacks without anger, printed in the text box, gain hit, raise or lower your opponent's anger one. You have instant power. When your opponent's MP changes a level from one of your card effects, or effects, you can draw a card. And then, of course, you have a power that says you can discard a styled card from your hand to perform a physical attack. And then, of course, if that card was a setup or drill that can perform an attack, you can place it into play. So you have a nice modifier. You have the potential to get a +1 in combat from a card draw. You also have some anger management and a kind of a hand filter slash way to get dead cards out of your hand for more attacks. So a lot going on in this mastery. We'll kind of run into the card pool here. Of course, Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
So, with the attacks that we'd recommend for this mastery, there are definitely some for sure attacks that you need to have in, particularly with the mastery needing a setups for that discard effect to really take place. But as for the non-setup physical attacks, we would recommend I'll Dig Your Grave. You're dealing stage damage, so we want all that damage for combat to be unpreventable, especially if you can get multiple setups out and then use them later. Blue Betrayal, your best board removal. So even though it's not going to deal a lot of damage, it is your best way of clearing your opponent's setups, drills, or allies. Blue Tempo, great card because it helps get setups out of the deck. So you draw all gas every time that you enter combat, and just ways to get a lot of those attacks that you want out of the deck. So if your opponent enters on you, you can keep going instead of drawing a lot of dead cards. Same with Blue Lunge, just searching the top 5 cards of the deck gives your deck a little bit of endurance as well. But then you can find any setup or drill, whether it be your attack setups or other setups or drills that you may put into the deck. Again, just a good way to get those out of the deck. And then you have 2 physical attacks that can also act as that D-leveler, giving you that extra card draw once per combat. So you can run Blue Knee, where if it hits, you may banish the top 2 cards of your life deck to lower your opponent's MP 1 level, and then you can raise your own anger or your opponent's if you want to help also get another kind of draw if the first one didn't work for whatever reason. And then Blue Takedown. Again, if your opponent is at 1 anger and you lower them to 0, then you can lower them a whole level, which is really good.
Of course, one thing to note is with I'll Dig Your Grave, you can advance both players' MP level 1, and so if you do advance your opponent MP level with I'll Dig Your Grave, you can also trigger the draw on Blue Resourceful Mastery. Something to note there. For block lineup, we kind of like to keep it pretty tight with a 2 of each type and an on the move. We recommend running blue deterrence because it's a lower anger 2, as well as blue energy ricochet for very much the same reason. Blue energy ricochet also has the ability to have a floating lower anger effect every time you use a setup. And as Jeff has mentioned, we do run setups in the deck as attacks that you could be using to lower your opponent's anger additionally as well. For card advantage, we like to run Blue Leverage and Blue Brace. Leverage does give you a card from the top 3 of your life deck, and of course your opponent does choose that card, but once you get into your level 3 or 4, you're able to actually pick the card instead. With Blue Brace, you are able to recycle the setups that you've been using out of your discard pile and put them back into play. We do recommend either a confrontation or stare down. You are an aggressive deck. You do kind of want to be able to maybe see, your opponent's hand, know how to play around them. It's never bad. But maybe you have a board full of attacks, and you lead out with a confrontation stare down to maybe see, like, hey, maybe this is the turn that I just unload all my board attacks on someone, or maybe I want to save them for later. So that's where confrontation stare down has a strength maybe over a sphere. We recommend on the move. Of course, this card does +1 you. It does let you draw a card. And with the ability to filter dead cards out of your hand with the mastery, draw pretty much anything you're going to draw is going to either be an attack or something you can at least pitch for an attack to the mastery. So the card draw is almost never going to whiff on you. And then, always just having the ability to just dig through that quicker is never bad. Not to mention this does, of course, stop skip effects and pass effects. And you are a deck that generally wants to be in combat, so that's never bad as well.
As with any blue deck, anger is not its greatest strong suit, so we recommend running Unleashed if you want to see your higher levels. So So with Unleashed, we have several attached targets you can go with. Really just depends on how you want to play the deck. Smug Punch, if you feel like you need more anger hate. Tree of Might gives you that +2 stages during combat, which is really handy because the +1 from the mastery is generally not the strongest. You need other effects to increase that stage damage to make the deck really run. So the +2 is really good from Tree of Might. Blue Agility is also another great option. Your physical attacks deal +1 stage and then also gain hit, lower your opponent's anger 1, so you gain some stage damage as well as some anger hate, just an all-in-one attach card. And then Blue Rebuke, which ties in really well with all of the leveling up, de-leveling, all that sorts of stuff to help grab a card during combat and really get some more damage in.
Of course, it wouldn't be a resourceful deck if we didn't round it out with some setup attacks. So there are a few, at least as options, that we recommend. Blue Sword Stance is very staple. It does have the ability to choose the type of damage you want, and it does go back in your life deck if you hit. Blue Key Buildup. Some people will opt to not run this because it's an energy attack, but I personally really like this one because it does have an anti-anger on the card. Running mostly physical attacks, your opponent is generally not going to hold a block for this card in their hand, so that's something to consider and a very easy way to put some extra damage out on your opponent. Blue Stretch Kick is very staple. Again, just a big beefy AT5. Physical attack sitting on the board is never bad. And then Blue Off Balance Punch is just another one of your options. A little bit weaker, but it does have the ability to raise or lower player's anger 1 as well. While not an attack, we do also include Blue Hush here as a card that you should consider. This card is really good at getting around things like Times of Warriors Tools floating effect, any onboard block powers such as like a red forward stance drill, allies, etc. And it does add a stage modifier as well that you can utilize, of course.
Some other attacks to consider as you're building the deck. If you're playing a hero MP, then Blue Quick Strike is always good. Some anger gain as well as a focused physical. We'll be dealing a total of 6 stages just by itself, which can add up with the extra mods. Blue Strike, a good way to get your setups out of the discard pile, put them back into your hand, which then you can use at least the mastery once to put one of those from your hand back into play and then play it again, or just keep it on the board for later. Blue Head Knock, some of the best anti-anger in the game. Just lowering them to 0 is always good, as well as dealing life card damage and having endurance. Blue Round Throw, just another physical attack, just really adding on that stage damage, but that parenthetical is also really good. Just help you stop some energy attacks, so it can be an aggressive or defensive card. Blue Sword Rush is a really good one, especially if you're running a high setup count, because as soon as you play it, then any of those setups that don't have banish after use get shuffled back into the deck. Conveniently, all of the attack setups don't have that. But if you are running other styled setups in the deck, then this is just a way to get some of them back. Have that. Blue Decapitation. Again, you're not really using this card for the main attack itself, but for that parenthetical, where then it can copy one of your many physical attacks that you already have in the deck that are styled from the discard pile, so it just acts as an extra copy of an attack. You don't really have a ton of ways with most MPs to really get cards back from the discard pile, and the ones we've chosen really don't interact too much with it. A little bit, but not much. So this is just a really good card to think and consider in getting extra damage through.
Of course, a few final cards. If you want some more board hate, you can always run Blue Wrist Block. You want more maybe pile recursion again. If Blue Strike isn't your thing, you have things like Blue Excitement, which automatically put them in play. You have some traded cards, such as Blue Absorption, Suppressive Strike. Both these cards are really good, depending on if you're running an Alien MP or a Saiyan MP. You're going to want to run these cards. Heroic Dashing Punch is also something for the alignment consideration. If you're a hero, you're probably going to want to try to run this card. Very, very good. And then finally, if you're looking for maybe some more blocking or you don't like on the move, you can always consider Blue Shifting Maneuver. And then if you really want to play more on that level popping dynamic, you can always opt to run a Blue Neck Beam as well to maybe get the end of combat draw for your mastery.
So now moving on to the MPs, we have 2 Alien MPs and 1 Saiyan MP. First, we would definitely recommend Broly for a beginning player, just a really easy stack to manage. As well as once you get off that level 1, you have some extra mods, and as your opponent tries to level up, they're going to lose stages. So we recommend all of set 6 Broly, all the basic original Broly levels. Eraser Cannon's really good because it's your extra board removal, but you do want to be cautious because you must banish a card if one is in play. You want to be careful that you don't accidentally banish your own setups if your opponent doesn't have board. But if they do have a board, then it's really good at just wiping it clean. Broly's Face Crusher, again, revealing the top 3 cards for styled physical attacks. Pretty much all your attacks, most will be styled, so Broly's Face Crusher will be netting you an extra +1 card and has anger on it itself. And then you can, if you feel like it, run Broly's Gigantic Meteor. Again, just Broly likes to reveal cards from his hand, so this is just adding an extra reveal effect to rejuvenate a card. But a energy attack that, if blocked, banishes the top 2 cards of your opponent's life deck is also really good, along with the anger gain if it hits. You can run the new from the movie Collection 3, Broly 1 and 2, if you feel like you want to just kind of boost up to a new 2 and then get your setups out that way. You do lose the stage mod, so you will want to try to recoup that somehow than the old level 2, but you do gain the benefit of a lot of rejuve, a lot of stage gain, kind of more of a defensive build if you don't want to go pure offense with the older stack.
Of course, another option that we have is Tapedown. Tapedown is, of course, running kind of more of the sword mechanic, and there are a few cards that we did mention, for example, like Sword Rush over here, that would be probably popping into your build. But Tapedown, of course, has the ability to just draw a bunch of cards, so you're able to just filter your hand more, that Mastery in blue is kind of already doing for you. And then as you go up, of course, you start to access a stage modifier, which, much like Broly, is something that you really, really want with all the attacks you're throwing. Of course, you eventually start to deal focused, or make all your attacks focused as you go up, which is really cool. And then you have a whole sword engine you can kind of splash in as well. And so, of course, with Tapeon, he does give you access to Tapeon's Ocarina once you hit level 2, which does give you a little extra anger control and some crits, which is something blue kind of lacks. So that's really nice, at least in the crit department. Again, you have the hand advantage with the level 1, and then, of course, you have Aggressive Sword Drill to tutor cards out of your deck for more card advantage when combined with things like Blue Lunge and Tempo. You have Dashing Sword Attack for more comboing. Your Brave Sword Attack is a win condition in itself. This card is insane. And of course, if you have Aggressive Sword Drill out, you could potentially throw 2 6-life card at 1 stage attacks, unpreventable in a combat, every combat, on top of everything else you're doing. Of course, Blue Sword Rage is another card. If you're going to run Tapedown, you're going to want to run. Probably a swap out for one of the 2 blocks here we have up here. And this card, of course, gives you just even more hand consistency. It gives you any sword card that you want from your life deck. So stupidly powerful. And finally, if you want another sword option, you do have the Devilish Sword Strike as another just way to splash in some anti-anger, so then you don't really have to consider things like a blue head knock if you want more anger hate.
The last MP we'd recommend is Captain Ginyu. New levels 1, 3, and 4, but level 2 you can go between the older level 2 or the newer level 2, depending on how you want to play the deck. And then with Captain Ginyu, you also gain access to his Omni Block. That way you can sub that out for on the move or add it in addition if you feel like you want more blocks. And then you also have Captain Ginyu's Body Switch, which is just a nice way to help you level up to make sure you see those higher levels since you're already running Unleashed. And then you also have the default Ginyu Force allies, Jace just being an extra energy attack, Birder giving you those mods, so you are dealing extra stage damage, just again stacking that on because the normal stack itself does not have mods until you reach 3 and 4, but even those are life card damage, not stages, so Birder helps give you more access to more stage damage. Raccoon's really good because then you can start grabbing cards from those discard piles, and if they happen to be a setup, then you can use the Mastery to put this back into play. And then, of course, our favorite Goldo, where if he blocks an attack, then you gain a +2/+2 on all your attacks for the combat. So there's another way to access that stage damage that you're looking for and to really just stack all of those pluses together to equal beefy attacks off of your base attacks.
So yeah, each of these MPs has some sort of stage modifier or some sort of modifier in your attacks, and most of them are able to complement blue somehow, whether you are uh, got some ally stuff, some sword stuff, or just some board hate, better board hate options and stage pressure. So but yeah, these are I think all these three MPs all bring a nice synergy with the mastery, and I think I'm pretty confident in the core of this for the most part. Just test it out and try to see what you like with each of the MPs. So Jeff, I don't know if you have anything left to say.
You could also consider the new Super Set 16 Hero Vegeta because he has stage mod and ways to recur cards from the discard pile. But it is a little unfortunate that all his name cards are energy attacks.
Hmm.
They run in a little bit of a conflict with the build itself compared to Broly, compared to Tapedown. But I would also say that part of the reason why we would consider Ginyu and Tapeon is because of blue absorption, just being able to gain you that extra 2 anger, even if you don't use the discard effect to copy the attack, as well as that because you are alien, your next attack is considered to deal critical damage with that 2 anger gain, or maybe anger hate, however you want to play the card. So that's just a really good card in helping you make sure that you get to see your higher levels compared to most of the other blue cards that are running.
Well, anyway, guys, look forward to more of the beginner builds. Of course, the next set we will be doing is black here, and then after that point, we'll just be kind of picking up and mopping up the rest of the masteries as time goes on. But we do feel, of course, the ones that we have chosen for this initial run are more of the masters that are easier, more accessible, maybe more competitive, and maybe a lot less, uh, uh, I don't know, subjective subjective as far as what's good in them. So, hope you guys enjoy, and as always, take it easy. Peace.
Be building.